Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the budget work session number 4. I'd like to ask everybody in the audience that can to stand as we start every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. City Manager, we're on City Manager. If you guys would turn to page 53.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council and the citizens out there on the government channel. Tonight we've got the City Manager's Office, Police Department, Finance, and Non-Departmental in the budget. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our City Manager's management leaders. To my left is the HR Director, Stephen Haley. Of course, you know, far left there is Lola. She is the Deputy Finance Director, but she's a regular at these work sessions, of course. We got Matty Roserto, here's our Business Operations Person, Manager. Lee Cornwell is our Emergency Management Director, effective this particular fiscal year. That'll be a change. You all know Wilda, the clerk, who is not the clerk tonight, but she is a budget participant. The Chief of Police, Netsky, there, Lieutenant Knott, and Officer Mangus, the president of the local FOP organization. And we've got Una Cooper, our communications person, a manager, and John Henry King, the artillery guy, who's also the economic development. And I'm missing anybody,
Sounds
right?
like a crew. Well, thank you all for being here.
So that's the City Manager's Office. We'll start. The first item here is the City Council budget. For those out listening, I'll tell everybody specifically what the description is. The council is the governing body of the city, elected by and responsible to the voters for the operation of the city. The City Council is responsible for municipal policies. The council appoints the city manager, the city attorney, Board of Supervisors of Elections, all standing advisory committees, and special task force groups and study committees. Currently, the FTEs there is not full-time, but the not full-time equivalents are 7. The largest component in this particular budget is salaries and wages and benefits. We have a significant, this is where we also house our lobbying line item under contractual services. And also, if we flip one page over to 54, you'll see the other charges, subscriptions, and memberships, which includes MML, the Maryland Municipal League, Council of Governments, Regional Environmental Fund, the National League of Cities, Prince George's County Municipal Association, and the Bowie Chamber of Commerce. Are there any questions about
Questions of City Council?
About that budget?
All right, 55, City Manager.
Yes. The city manager is the chief administrative officer of the city. He supervises all staff and is responsible for the effective management of all financial and administrative actions of the city. The city manager is appointed by and serves at the pleasure of the city council. He is responsible for implementing all policy matters established by the city council and for the enforcement of city ordinances. The city manager keeps the council informed throughout a variety of reporting procedures that assist the council in its policymaking role. In 2019, we had 4 particular goals. One of them is to manage the Bowie Golf Course, continue to do that and maintain it. We have kept this operation afloat. However, there are significant challenges and exceptional needs there. We, in fact, just recently, I think about 3 weeks ago, hired a consultant to take a look at the Bowie Golf Course and to tell us from a professional perspective what we need to do to bring it up to the standards that it was at one point, and of course so that I can have those persons brief you and you all can determine whether you want to maintain it, keep it, or dispose of it in some other fashion. We also was working with the Prince George's County developers and other city staff to establish the tax and incentive funding district, and we've done that. See there, we continue to refine our communications plan. As you all, some of you may remember, my first night here was January 3rd and 17. We had an exceptional number of residents who complained vehemently that we weren't communicating effectively. So we established a communications plan, and we've implemented it, and it's become the one of the solid foundations of our staff organization. We always think communications when it comes to any service providing aspect of our job. And D there, the complete the negotiation for the Teamsters Union, that one should be deleted. The employees withdrew their request for union representation, and we are no longer negotiating with the Teamsters. On 2020, here we're going to develop and evaluate options for the golf course, as I mentioned before, establish series of retreats for after the election to discuss our strategic objectives adopted by the council at previous planning sessions, and incorporate consensus into a day-to-day operating structure of the city. And in summer, we want to have at least 2 retreats to become a more efficient and effective organization as we deliver services. We have an additional 0.2 of an FTE in the budget changes. That is to upgrade the grant directors and HUD/HUD directors position that currently held by Mr. Buggs to a full-time position. The need is certainly there, more than there, especially as we move along. We have more housing-related issues than we can manage, but if he's here full-time, we can be better off to deal with those. Also, there's an additional 0.4 of an FTE for a grant intern position, and with a budget cost of $13,412. Our expenditures and performance indicators are very similar to last year. That would leave us with 7 full-time employees. Salary, wages, and fringe benefits are the largest component of that, our spending. Also, if you look down to municipal grants, there's a $224,100 there for our community development block grant program to provide financial assistance for home repairs and to income qualified seniors, which is very active presently. Are there any questions about that budget?
Any questions, City Manager? Dr. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, for the objective number C for 2019, can we carry that over to 2020? Definitely want to discuss some new enhancements as far as communicating with the residents, possibly looking at next door to see if we can incorporate that.
Hear no objection.
Roger that. 2020. We'll move that over. Anything else?
No, thank you. Thank you. No, thank you.
All right. We'll
Anything
move on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Sev?
Yeah, real quick. I know the situation with the golf course is very much in flux right now. Have we had any luck reaching out to surveying or otherwise having conversations with current members of the golf course? I think this probably predates you, Mr. City Manager, but we talked about doing some sort of kind of comprehensive outreach to the members themselves to get a sense of what they would actually be willing to support. At the time, the question was whether they'd be willing to pay much higher rates if there was a promise of certain infrastructure improvements that would be made. But I'm just kind of curious as to whether we've done any outreach to the members themselves of that golf course, since a lot of what we could potentially end up doing with it will depend on their level of willingness to work with us.
As part of the study that's being done on the golf course right now, there's actually a survey being conducted this week. It's being administered in person, and that's going to be completed this week.
Oh, how delightful. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Ms. Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question again about the golf course. How do you see the impact of Glendale's course closing? How do you see that impacting Bowie for the positive, hopefully?
It has some potential for positive reflection on our course. However, I've been informed, and we're going to have to validate it, that there was a saturation of golf courses in this area. So we'd have to see if it has any effect at all, because there were 1 or 2 golf courses too many within 20 miles of Bowie. And nobody was doing well. Many of the country clubs make no money off the golf courses, they make the money off the club itself and that participation. But we'll take a look and see how, that'll be one of the questions we can ask a consultant to look into.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. City Manager? Dr.
I just wanted to inquire about the resources you mentioned specific to the senior population, just to ensure that we have a communication plan to communicate what's available to the seniors, to all of our senior residents.
We do. We use in the communications plan, we use every method that we can, including bulletin boards in the facilities where they operate, in the senior center at Pin Oaks, and of course all the electronic availabilities, plus the Bowie blade. And I may have missed something that Una could talk to, but we haven't. We have excellent participation in that program. So we have quite a few seniors coming in. We didn't, but I think they're finding out about us. Huh? Yeah. The finance director mentioned it's a little oversubscribed, but the word is getting out, and we have all of those means. Being a baby boomer, I like to say I'm advanced because I was a pilot, right? But a lot of my peers are not on Facebook and they're not using social media. But we communicate through the Bowie blade, and of course we use the bulletin boards that exist in those senior centers.
Hey, Dr. Trout?
I have a question for you. This is a thought. You know, a lot of the seniors take the senior bus when they're going to the senior center and traveling within the city of Bowie.
Yes.
Do we have any communications information in the bus to provide to the seniors? For example, when a spotlight comes out, do the drivers have spotlights in the vehicle so that the residents can see the spotlights in the vehicle? Or, you know, like other instances, when they're going in the vehicle, can't we use the vehicle as the senior buses as another area where we could provide hard copy information to the seniors?
It's possible. We'll certainly look into that. We could have handouts available when they get on the bus.
Right.
Is that what you mean? About upcoming things, and we could put the blade on there. And
yeah, because I don't think we've ever done that, and I'm just thinking that might be a missed opportunity that we're letting go.
we'll investigate.
Okay.
Any other questions? Human Resources, 58.
All right, thank you, sir. The Human Resources Office provides service support and staffing solutions to the city's operations, taking a leading role in vital areas such as talent acquisition, employee labor relations, benefits administration, performance management, compensation analysis. Is a primary objective of the office to ensure that the city maintains the most talented, highly engaged, and well-equipped staff as possible. All of the objectives listed under HR that are scheduled to be completed by 30 June are on course, and we are certain that they will be done at the appropriate time. If you look at the workload and performance indicators, you'll see that they are all within close proximity, except in one area here we improved significantly as the average number of days completed recruitments. We started keeping up with that data. When I arrived here, we actually were trying to recruit assistant city manager, and by the time we got around to the interviews, all the good candidates were gone. So that was a little disheartening, I want you to know. However,
Wait a minute, we did get Daniel.
wait a minute, let me finish now. So the next time we advertised, we were much faster and much more efficient. We cut our screening time in half, but we didn't lose any qualities, and we were able to get Daniel Mears there. It was lucky for him. It more suited his transition time too, but we were able to do this. So we have improved our recruitment efforts and processes in all of our particular situations. But see, Daniel didn't apply the first time, just for the record. Okay. I want to clear that up. But we've gotten better with this. So that's why we're making note of the 50 recruitments that we made there. In 2020, we want to develop and present proposals to improve the city city's current employee recognition incentive program, identify, evaluate, and assess new initiatives to ensure that the city maintains its competition with regard to recruitment and talent acquisition. As you all know, this is we have a really low employment rate and less than 3% in the city, so it's really hard getting good people nowadays and keeping them. We want to also provide enhanced diversity training seminar, which will include subject matter directly related to the LGBTQ sensitivity, and we want to do that by September 29, 2020. We want to complete 8 employee wellness activities, including lunch learning seminars, health fairs, and employee challenges by June 30, 2020. There is one significant change. The reclassification of the police personnel associate, which was grade 111, to human resources generalist, grade 112, at a different rate, which increases the personnel cost there to by $3,855. There are 6 full-time equivalents in HR. Most of their expenses are salary and wages and benefits. We have a 76.5 expenditure down there, recruitment and in-service expenses, physical exams for new employees, advertising, vacancies, and interview expenses for all department vacancies and staff seminars. And we're always trying to get new people. There's always a certain amount of change, so we have to be vigilant when we look at replacing our employees. That ends the HR component. I'm ready for any questions.
Questions? Mr. Wolf.
Good evening, and thanks for the information so far. A couple quick questions on the human resources side. What do we do for employees with regard to retirement planning?
We actually have a seminar coming up on May the 6th, and that is going to be specifically about retirement planning. It's going to be conducted by Stephen Taylor, who is the financial planner for ICMARC, which is the company that administers our retirement plans, our 401k plan and 457 plan.
Excellent, thank you. Sure. And then the next question I have is on page 59, we have recruitment and in-service expenses. It says physical exams for all new employees. Is that for all labor categories, or is it?
All employees go through a pre-employment examination, and so that's what that's addressing.
All right. Do we have, subsequent to that, drug testing? Do we have anything for testing ongoing over the course of employment?
We do. Actually, the pre-employment exam consists of, or it includes a drug and alcohol screening. Beyond that, for all of our positions that are deemed safety-sensitive positions, they are subject to random testing, and typically that's done twice a month. So we do that. We also certainly have reasonable suspicion testing. So if there's an employee, and it doesn't matter if they're safety sensitive or not, who is displaying any symptoms of perhaps substance abuse, we test them as well.
And I assume that safety would include anybody who's driving any vehicles and the like?
Yeah, anybody who operates any heavy or potentially dangerous equipment. So even folks who use chainsaws, things like that are on that list.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Any other questions, Dr. Sandcarter?
Yes, I first wish to acknowledge Human Resources for some really innovative practices that are focusing on equity and inclusion. So the first is on objective for 2019C, complete a compensation assessment based upon gender. I just request that those results are shared with council. I'd be really interested to see what the findings were.
Absolutely. We will do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, if you'll flip over to 60.
Elections.
Page that might interest a couple of people in this room.
Yes. This activity provides administrative, secretarial, and clerical services for city elections, voters registration, record keeping, and furnishes voting and registration information to Bowie residents and other governmental bodies and agencies. The objectives of this activity are to encourage all eligible residents of the City of Bowie to register and vote in all city elections, provide adequate information to the residents, and continually improve and update the city's voting regulations and records. The objectives here for 19 have been completed, and by and large, and in 20, as you all know, we're going to have the election of the city council. Of course, the city clerk who is a one-person operation. We're going to dedicate specific administrative support to her at that time. Also, set aside some additional overtime money for that in the city clerk's budget itself in support of this. And also, I'm prepared to bring on temporary or contract type administrative support to get us through the August through November surge in that particular operation. In 20, she's going to work with the election task force in reviewing the city's election laws and the charter and code, continue to work with the county board of elections to update the city street list and homes as homes are built and properties are annexed into the city, develop an election handbook for candidates and administer the city's election on November 5th, which is going to be quite a mission for this group of people. You see here we have professional services, which is a large amount, voting machines and such, and also we're with certain amounts of equipment, other voting machines and ballot scanners under equipment rental there. If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, any other questions about elections?
Question?
If there aren't any, I'd like to skip to, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. Two quick things. One, ahead of the city elections, we do put out a mailer to registered voters, right? Letting them know you're registered to vote, this is where you go, this is your polling place. I just wanted to double check on that.
Yes, those are the voter notification cards, and those are sent out through Prince George's County Board of Elections, which maintains our voter rolls.
Okay.
Those usually go out right after our last day for candidate registration, which will be October 4th. So
Perfect.
Probably the following week. After that,
gotcha.
they'll go out.
Awesome. Just wanted to double check on that. Thank you. The second thing, how are we feeling about recruiting election judges? I remember reading the last gubernatorial election, there were some challenges with recruiting volunteers to man polls in certain precincts. How do we, are we feeling okay about that overall? When you referenced possibly hiring contractors, was that what that was related to, or?
I've actually already received 2 emails from people that want to serve as election judges.
Oh.
So I don't think it'll be an issue. We didn't have an issue in 2015, but usually I start putting out that notice and advertising sometimes in the end of July, beginning of August. We'll start advertising it, that we're looking for it, and then there's an application for them to fill out, and then once we've gathered, probably sometime in end of September, the board will meet, and then we'll go through all the applications received and assign the judges to each polling location.
What's the extent of the training that they get prior to election day?
They get, the vendor that we use for our machines comes in. It's usually, we used to do it on the weekdays, and since we've grown and we're doing them now on Saturdays, so Saturday, usually about 3 hours, and I do it in 2 shifts because we have a total of 40 election judges that work the day of election. So I divide it. We'll do District 1 and District 2 one Saturday, and then District 3 and 4 on another Saturday. And then they'll have hands-on practice with the machines. Their vendors brings in 4 machines for people to be able to practice on them. They get a little booklet with a tutorial of what to do and all of that. Plus our board of election members also attend the training, just in case something happens the day of the election and a judge is ill and has to leave or something, one of the board members could step in till we get an alternate judge in there.
Gotcha. Cool. Separate thing, I see here under the 2019 objectives that the election review task force has started meeting since February?
No, it has not. It was my intention for those to be formed already. I do have 3 task members. I'm missing a couple from some of the council members.
Fair enough.
So
Just wanted to check in on that. Okay. Gotcha. As far as the actual task force itself, its composition, how it's going to work, has there been any discussion about how they're going to select a chair and how often they're going to meet and how they're going to function? Nothing?
No, that has not been decided yet. So
Okay, fair enough.
need all my persons to put it together, and then we have, task forces also would have to be formed through a resolution, so we'll go over with council how long you want that task force to be together, what are their objectives, and all of that, and then we'll put it all in resolution, then council would adopt that resolution, and then the task force could follow the guidelines on that.
Good to know. And the only thing holding up is you just need a few additional names from individual people. All right.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
No problem.
Any other questions? Mr. Wolfley?
Thank you. Most of the questions answered already, but I want to dig a little deeper on the education for our election judges. You spoke to the issue of getting them acclimated to the equipment and having them go through training. What's the protocol for briefing folks on the election rules themselves as they relate to our code?
That's all done on that same day. I usually have them do the machines first, get training and good and situated with the machines and stuff. Then after they're done with that, then I'll go into my checklist of all the do's and don'ts for the day of the election and the training and how they need to proceed on that day, the hours that they have to be there. And they all get a copy of the section, Chapter 6 of the election for the city, so they'll have.
All right. Follow-up question is unrelated to this, but we have had early voting in the city at the gym. I don't know, is that managed through your office, the coordinating for that, or is that?
No, the city election does not have early voting. Those early votings was for presidential government, and no, that do not take care of any of that. That's all done through the county's Board of Election.
So who is our point of contact for the county with that?
Well, your question regarding early voting at the gym?
Yes. So here's the issue. We provide the gym as a location for early voting, and I think it's kind of been with mixed results. I get a lot of people who complain about there are too many people, that no parking and all that kind of thing. And my concern is that we end up having a shortage of space, and then I think in some cases maybe of staff, but I know we don't staff it. But it ends up chewing up a lot of our time, and I'd like to see if they could find additional locations for early voting so that our gym isn't so overcrowded on a couple of those key dates. And I don't know which office that's in.
The
Board of Elections.
we received a request from the Prince George's County Board of Elections, the person in charge, the chairperson, requesting the use of the gym in 2016 for early voting.
Yep.
The problems that existed over there was a lot of the people who work with early voting take up a lot of the parking, and then when people come in, the parking problem spills into the senior center parking lot. And of course, the perfect place to go is over in the town center and across the street, but people do that. They want to come back also. So we're looking at an alternate location for them, other than the gym. So, and that's in the works.
Excellent, thank you.
Right.
Any other questions? All right, well then, based on what the city clerk says.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to skip to page 68 and go over the clerk's budget.
I was just going to remind people that, those of you that have not submitted a name for the task force, if you would do so. All right, I'm sorry, was there any other questions on the election? Legal services, 61?
Well, I'd like to, let's skip to 68 and knock the clerk out while she's sitting here, sir.
58?
68.
Oh, 68.
So the city clerk provides support services and assistance.
Oh, city clerk.
And to the city council and the city manager. This office, in conjunction with the Board of Elections, is responsible for and makes arrangements for the conduct, administration, preparation, and operation of city elections that we spoke of a moment ago, as well as update and maintenance of the voter registration rolls. Additionally, the office maintains and updates the city's code, makes arrangements for preparation of for transcribing minutes. The city clerk's office maintains official records and documents of the city and answers inquiries from outside agencies, citizens, and government bodies on behalf of the city. This office also arranges interviews for committee applicants with the city council, prepares and maintains city council calendars, hearing dates, schedules, the city committee rosters, as well as financial disclosure / conflict of interest data. The city clerk's office also is responsible for countersigning official city documents, maintaining the city seal, setting up meetings for the council, assisting the city staff in researching projects, as well as gathering material for council packets and performing other related tasks as required or needed. The objective for 19 was to update the city's record retention policy, and we've done that and submitted it to the state for final approval. As you can see on performance indicators, now there's very similar to 19 as compared to 20. In 2020, the clerk's office intends to schedule and arrange quarterly work sessions with the council stemming from the request at the council retreat in 2018, update rules and regulations of the city committees and present the council for adoption by September 2019, update procedures for Board of Appeals and present the council for adoption by January 31st, 2020, arrange orientation sessions for council after the November the 5th, 2019 election, update rules of procedures for the city council and present to the council for adoption by December 2019. As I mentioned earlier, we increased the overtime budget by $10,747 in anticipation of the election and all that it can bring. We have a one full-time employee, FTE there, Miss lady to my left here, 102, 400, and 26,700 are the major expenses for this office. And are there any questions of the clerk about the clerk's office?
Questions, clerk? Mr. Sev?
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say I'm super pleased to see for 2020 the objectives related to the orientation post-election for new council members and also the quarterly council work sessions. I think that's going to be really helpful in formalizing a lot of stuff that already happens organically, but we'll definitely make things a little bit better and smoother, I think, for folks going forward. And also just wanted to say a very big thank you to our city clerk, who has the particularly thankless job of dealing directly with us. And we thank you for everything that you do, keeping the trains running and managing that office. I know it's not always fun. We sometimes make your life a little exciting in not always the best of ways, but we do appreciate you and everything that you do, Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
If not, let's
We'll go back to legal now.
Let's go back to 61 and pick up the legal services. Go back to 61 and start it with legal services.
Yeah.
Okay. This office provides legal services and advice to the city council and city staff. The city attorney attends council meetings, represents the city in legal proceedings, both for the courts and administrative agencies, reviews contracts, leases, and covenants, prepares ordinances and resolutions. The office also provides advice to the city on state legislation where required. The city retains several law firms with different specialties to handle such matters as bond issues, IRS tax issues, union negotiation issues that aren't there, but we also use them for that. Separate legal counsel is also retained to support the Ethics Commission and the Board of Personnel Appeals, telecommunication legislation, cable franchise renewal process. The city is also represented without cost beyond payment of premiums by attorneys appointed by the local government insurance trust, otherwise named legit, to represent the city in connection with the defense of certain civil actions. There are no significant changes from last year to this year. The $200,000 is the same amount as we had in last year's budget, and that seems to be working. And we have used the legal services for cell tower issues, for personal negotiation issues, and several different areas, and that number seems to work for us. Any questions?
Questions legal? All right, communications on 62.
Okay. This division is responsible for providing residents with current information on city events, services, policies throughout the monthly newspapers, press releases, city websites, social media, and cable television. It also broadcasts the city council meetings and special events on the government channel. The objective for 2019 were to, one was to improve the communications by expanding the monthly news flash to become a true electronic newsletter with graphics and interactive video and websites, and we intend to have that completed by the end of June in 2019. Measure resident satisfaction in city services and programming. This was deferred until this year, and we have monies in the bank, and it's going to be an objective for this year instead of last year. We decided we need to have it more professionally done, and we're prepared to execute in 2020. Enhance the outreach efforts with increased use of video on government channels, city website, and social media. Currently, we hired a media video producer type person, and we have completed more than nearly 100 videos. Some of you may have been participants in them for events that go on in the city, such as snow plowing and emergency management and other things. D is to, we're going to prepare options for adding new mailed communications to residents by November 2018 and present to the council for consideration as a budget adjustment if necessary. So would you, Una, would you tell them a little bit about what that you have planned there?
Sure.
Hit your button.
Good evening, council. Good evening, Ms. Cooper. Can you pass that to Byron?
Sure.
This is for you.
What do you think?
Oh, well done. Last year during the budget work sessions, council directed us to add an objective to look at different mailings to residents. So we spent some time during the year doing that. And for FY20, what we're proposing is a quarterly mailing to all households in the city. Oh, Wilda, can you give out them? Oh, okay, sorry. So you have them. What we're suggesting is a postcard. And you see from the samples that we provided, it's a small postcard, but you can fit a lot in a small space if you work really hard at it. The idea here is we're getting something into people's hands. Hopefully it's something that they just don't toss in the recycling bin, that they could put it on their refrigerator, or it's just something easy to access. We can do them on topics like recycling. We might do one on emergency management, or it can be about upcoming events. Wilda and I were talking today about doing one, if you concur with this objective, that we would do one probably in July and then another one in mid-September, and we would be able to start advertising the election in that, as well as upcoming events like the International Festival at the beginning of October. Postcard it's simple. It won't require a lot of staff time. We think it'll be easy for people to have and hold on to, and it is also the least expensive mailing that we can do. We have, almost 22,000 households in the city, so that adds up to a lot of postage when you go beyond. I mean, it's a good amount with postcard, and it only goes up from there depending on how big the piece is that you're mailing.
Okay.
And then I'll take questions if you have them about that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Cooper. My question, it relates to your last statement about the postage cost, because I really want to know how big can we go on the postcard without going to the next level as far as the postage increase? And the reason I ask that is because I'm kind of concerned whether or not seniors will be able to visualize this based upon the font size. So I'm just wondering, how large of a postcard can we go before the postage would increase? Because if we can go a little bit larger, I would suggest that we
I think
go.
you can.
Huh?
I don't know, I think it's 7 by 11 or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because when we do mailings, for, our elections, that's one of the things I've looked at in the past, getting to that border where I have a certain diameter, certain dimension on that postcard, so that it's actually very easy to read, because when you're sending stuff out like this, there's two things on this that concerns me: the font size, and then the other thing is, whenever you have writing, you really want to make sure that the writing jumps off the page, so you want to make sure that the background is really easily distinguishable from the writing and also the background. You want to make sure it's distinguishable. For example, like I understand the colors on here, using colors that are really warm colors and jump out. For example, like a background would be gold and the writing would be black or red, because that will jump out at the reader. That's just from my experience in looking at it. I might be wrong, but I just think we need to.
No, we can certainly play around with colors to have the most legible. This is considered a standard size.
Right.
So, if we went to something more like a campaign mailing like that, that would be substantially more per piece. We'd probably be talking in the neighborhood of 37 cents per piece for something like that, whereas we're a little less than 20 for the smaller one.
Yeah. That would be one of the concerns I have, just to see how far up we can go without going to the next, because they do it in as far as dimensions. This dimension, you can be responsible for like 20 cents, 25 cents, and then you go up to the next one, then it's 37 cents, because it really varies depending upon the dimension of the piece that you're talking about. So that would be my only concern. That and also making sure that the colors are such that the print stands out from the background. Right.
Yeah, just as one guy, I would have trouble reading this.
I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I got glasses on now, and I have to.
But it's a great idea. I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, the idea is outstanding.
Yeah. Any other questions on communication? Mr. Sev?
Yeah, first of all, I love the postcard idea. For my own marketing work, I know that postcards are absolutely the most cost-effective way of doing business, so I love it when staff thinks of things that I already agree with. If we can go to a larger size, I agree with Dr. Trout's point that might be useful, especially for some of our visually impaired readers like me. That being said, I do know that vendors have an insane range of price. There's some guys, who for one mailing might charge you $6,000 and another one might only be $2,000. So I know with a good bit of vendor research, you can probably get the cost down a bit more, especially if we end up going with the larger card design. One of the things that I'm interested in, so first of all, Ms. Cooper, I have to give you and your team tremendous credit, because communication is something that many of us on here have been talking about for the last 3 years. Your office has flourished. The work you guys have done in the last 3 years has been absolutely astounding. There are, I think, I can safely say very few communities that put as much information out in as much detail as we do, and so that's a tremendous credit to the work that you've done and that your team has done. Now the hard part is just getting leading the horse to water, but then also getting it to drink. And so I know that a lot of us have tried to independently get folks aware of and signed up for Alert Bowie. One of the things that I'm wondering, if we can use our direct mailing campaign, well, two things. One, I wonder if we can make kind of our overall goal to get people on the receiving end of the electronic communication exclusively, which is to say that there's some folks who will receive the electronic communications and be comfortable with that, whether it's the texts or the emails or whatever the case is. And as recipients of that, we'll be comfortable not receiving something in the mail, right? Just to save paper and costs or for whatever reasons. I'm wondering if we can't use these to really encourage people to get signed up for, Alert Bowie and all the other programs. And once they do, give them the option of opting out of the mailing. I'm wondering how, realistic it is to coordinate that and whether that's kind of a long-term goal we can have, the idea being that the only people who would receive this in the long term would be people who just for one reason or another don't want the electronic communication and do want the paper. And I'm wondering if that can kind of be a long-term objective potentially.
It's certainly something we can look into.
Cool. Anyway, thank you so much again for all the work your office does, and we really appreciate it, and this is a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just a quick comment. I too think this is great, and I think we should move forward with it as well. The larger size, and I think to Councilman Stev's point, there are lots that we can learn from a few different proposals that will get us the price down. So I think this is probably on the high end for sure. Quick question: how many households do we have?
A little less than
22. Okay.
However, depending on the kind of mailing we do, sometimes it's by carrier route, which you guys are probably familiar with for campaign mailings, but in that case, we need to, depending on how we choose to do it, what's most effective, we'd actually be printing 24,000 if we went with bulk mail, because that's about what our carrier routes equal.
Okay, great. Because they have the every door delivery as well from some of this. Just a question of whether or not it lines up. So I'll leave that to your good offices to figure out the most optimal solution. But I think this is great. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on communications? Business operations, 65.
The Business Operation Office handles critical and high-profile administrative management duties, including negotiating and monitoring the city cable franchise, telecommunication agreements, and annexation agreements. The Business Operation Office is also responsible for overseeing the city's utilities, as well as negotiating and monitoring procurement contracts with various organizations. Now, this office manages various unique and sensitive issues directed by the city manager. In addition, this office provides central support to other city offices in the area of office supplies, equipment maintenance, printing, graphics, as well as postage and mailing. Under their objectives for 2019, one objective was to expand the INET, and we will be contracting with CTC to access the network's connectivity to the ice rink, which is one of the major components here, missions. B, let's renegotiate Comcast and Verizon cable agreement. The Comcast agreement has been stalled for several years now. Negotiations just picked up again. We are part of the Prince George's County Consortium when it comes to negotiating with Comcast, and we are all synchronized with them, but we have not had much progress. But they're continuing, even though the original agreement has expired, they are continuing to honor the agreement until we can reach a new one. We're also negotiating one-on-one. We just initiated negotiations with Verizon with regard to its cable franchise agreement also. One of the things we're going to be doing is, in number C there, that the solar farm issue. The person that the organization we were in had a contract with, Tesla organization, has requested to opt out of the agreement, and currently that is being worked out between our city attorney and theirs, and so the termination has not occurred, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to complete that. And this is, right now we're working on an amicable exit strategy. and before we take a second look and give somebody else an opportunity to participate. The objectives for 2020 are to expand the INET and to enhance the use of technology to improve performance, increase network connectivity, provide better customer service, and improve delivery of core services on an ongoing basis. We're continuing to negotiate, as I mentioned, for 19 with Comcast and Verizon. We're identifying smart energy methods to reduce consumption and expenses in the city of Bowie. As we move to page 66, we have 4 FTEs in this organization: the business management operator, business operations manager, the executive office associate, an administrative associate, and a part-time receptionist that we have at the front of the building, Irma and Alice. The salaries and wages are the biggest thing in this, one of the biggest things in this division, $249,000, $72,600 for salary, wages, and fringe benefits. And if you look to page 67, you see the postage bill is rather high, and also materials, because we provide those through this office for the entire staff. And also, you look here at capital outlay, machinery and equipment. This includes the INET-related upgrades I mentioned before, and the planned connectivity of the ice arena, the new ice arena that we are currently in the process of bid collections and final coordination. We will be connecting that facility to the INET, which is one of the reasons why that line item is so high. So, any questions about the business operations?
Mr. Stev?
Hey, Ms. Bozzuto, thanks for coming out tonight. Couple quick things. One, I know that you had one meeting with the city's IT committee at one point, and I can't remember if they brought up to you that they'd been talking about a dig once policy.
Yes.
As it relates to our utilities. They had that conversation with you?
Yes, we had a conversation already.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Is that the sort of thing that you think the city could take a look at as adopting a policy?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. So I'll leave that to you. The other thing is I see one of your objectives for 2020 is smart energy measures and so on. I know that we've talked about this briefly before, but one of the things I just wanted to bring up again is there's been a lot of interest in the community expressed to me. For one, looking at electric vehicle charging stations at city properties down the road, making that kind of a standard ask, especially of developers, or if redevelopment is going on, that be something that we have as a sort of formal request. And there's also been a lot of interest in having us take a look at electric vehicles in the city's fleet, which, the city manager and I have discussed before that there's, a higher upfront cost to a lot of those. But what we're not so sure of is what the long-term maintenance costs are, and whether there is, in fact, a potential savings there, or even if it just ends up being cost neutral, not having to buy as much gas and limiting the amount of maintenance. So I don't know exactly whether those two things are specifically on your plate, but I did want to bring them both up since I see you're doing.
I'm actually doing work in that.
Delightful.
COG has actually come out with studies regarding EV and maintenance and fleet.
Okay.
So I have already asked for them to give us that, and then we can start comparing that with regular.
And getting some data on how we can do that. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, business operators? Dr. Trout and then Dr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, on the objectives for 2019, item number C, can we move that down to the objective for 2020? Looking at item number 3 for 2020 on the objectives, it is in close proximity, the meaning, with item number C for 2019. But item number C for 2019 is more specific, so I was just wondering if we could move that down to 2020, since we can't complete it in 2019 because of what you had outlined before with the energy provider.
Well, we can certainly do that. Once we get past this contractual difference of opinion that we have, and I suspect that Tesla will be no longer in the picture. We can look at other proposals because they're coming, but right now we can't address them because we still technically have an agreement with them.
Right, but can we, what I just want to, just move the objective
done.
there? Okay, thank you.
Got it.
Dr. Sinclair?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And actually, my comment was same as Dr. Trout's here. I wanted to see that we move C down to our objectives for 2020 as well. And so I think that, again, it shows that we have a commitment to lower our expenses, but also a commitment to our environment. And I just didn't want it to falter to the wayside. And so to move that to this year as well.
You bet.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wolfley.
A couple of things. I guess one of the dangers when you write notes is you got to be careful. Apparently, Councilman Stev and I share some opinions. I thought maybe he was reading my notes. One of the things on EV, I thought if we could have a objective for EV that's kind of consistent. In my notes, I had develop an EV policy and plan of action that advances EV readiness in the community and the city government with emphasis on increased use of EVs and enhanced availability of level 2 and high-speed chargers. So it's that same genre of deal, because I think it would be important to get all the kind of infrastructure in place in advance of when eventually we'll get that kind of tipping point where we have a large number of users. Second thing is on page 67, we have the machinery and equipment. It's what is the source of that revenue, of that money? Is that our
It's cable contract.
cable contracts?
You mean for the 1 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the PEG funding.
Okay, so that's, are we able to use the PEG funding for those purposes? They are? Okay.
Yes. According to, when we redid the agreements with both Verizon and Comcast, that was one of the terms that we had, that we could play a little bit more with the PEG funding.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions on business operations?
I think I just wanted to add one more thing.
I'm sorry?
Yes, one more.
Go.
And so with Dr. Trout, we asked to move C down to objective for 2020, but it's come up a few times with council where we've asked to take a look at EV as well as the fleet vehicles. So maybe let's be explicit and add that as an objective as well.
Okay.
No objection.
Well, we already have a policy already, and we can submit that to you, so you can take a look at it. If it's your objective that we review the plan and submit it to you, and I'll let you take a look at it and see if it's satisfactory. But I've been informed that there's already a plan and a policy in place for that. If you want to assign an objective to that we, for example, that we work to install 2 to 4 more charging stations somewhere in the city, that might be more focused and for a particular action. Also, if we're going to, given an objective to, we're going to, 1 out of every 4 cars should be electric vehicles. If you say it, we'll do it. And I'm willing to take that direction, but, or interpret your direction for something like that, which is, since this is just a work session, we can go back and forth like this.
If I could jump in?
Go.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and get some more data on the electric vehicle costs and kind of the stuff you're already working on, Ms. Pizzuta, before we start making formal objectives on that? I do agree we want some formal objectives down the road, but I would like a little bit of data first before we start committing to specifics, if that's okay with my colleagues.
Yeah.
We're ready to take whatever action is given, Mr. Mayor. So we're going to look at the policy, we're going to check the pricing, and come back on this issue, correct? All right, you betcha.
All right. Economic development, page 70.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. The mission of the Economic Development Office is to increase the employment and non-residential tax base of the city through business retention, expansion, and attraction, tourist promotion, community development, redevelopment, and revitalization, and other business technical assistance. The office serves as a liaison to the business community and to the city's Economic Development Committee, and provides and supports the local delivery of business assistance programs to various chambers of commerce, regional economic development entities, state offices, and departments, and other agencies for economic and community development matters. The office is responsible for the implementation of the economic development strategies adopted by the City Council. If you look at the objectives for 19, you'll see that they're very similar to the objectives for 20. This is one area where we have 4 major objectives that are ongoing and continuous, and so which is the are using advertisements, managing, continuing the efforts for shopping center revitalization, providing oversight to the small business growth and assistance programs, and oversight of Bowie BIC, and for which we make contributions, and other issues. But these are the same issues, the same actions that we continue to do that are continuous for Mr. King and his intern. As you may recall, at one point, this office was in the planning department, but I since separated this and made it an office that I supervise directly, because, you know, at this point, especially 2 years ago, survival retail and other and our shared centers was critical and still is, and so we've maintained efforts to do so. We, as I mentioned before, we have 1.4 FTEs here, one of them being Mr. King, the other being his interns, and we were able to get really sharp interns from Bowie State and University of Maryland to come over and work with Mr. King. Also, so the largest expense here is, one of the largest is the salary, wages, and benefits. We have a $230,500 expense for professional services, which includes hosting brokers for prospect events, advertising, graphic design agency support services. Also includes city contribution to the Bowie BIC, Small Business Development Center, the Procurement of Technical Assistance Center, and the Maryland's Women's Business Center, and service fees for maintenance and operations of the city's revolving loan program. Additionally, and also you see $150,000 maintained in other charges for the revolving loan program, and another $58,000 for memberships in one economic development, retail retention, business-oriented membership that benefits the city. We're ready to answer any questions that you all might have about our economic development effort.
Mr. Zeb?
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. John Henry King, my favorite baritone in city government. Well, one quick thing is, one of the things that we've been looking at in the last few years is getting kind of improved information from our residents about what they think about, you know, the city and what we could be doing differently or whatnot. I'm really interested in seeing if whether this is a joint project with you and someone else in the city manager's office, or just you guys, perhaps working on a survey of the business community in our area, getting a sense of the challenges that they're facing, kind of their thoughts on operating in our area, knowing full well that most of what they're facing probably has nothing to do with city government. I think it would still be very useful to kind of have that information so that we can be kind of better, more informed advocates for the business community that operates here, since they are, you know, part of our Bowie family as well.
We can look into that and see how we can do it, Mr. Esteve.
Great, I appreciate that.
Mr. Wolford?
Yes, good evening. Quick comment or request is on our objectives for 2020. Can we add support for the establishment of an arts district in Old Town Bowie? In that, I think that would fit into this office as well.
By support, do you mean, are you inferring that we would financially support this effort?
No, what I mean by that is the support in the effort to achieve the status of an arts district and pursuing what we need to. I don't know what the cost might be, but looking into what the options are for pursuing such a district and supporting that effort.
We have met with the young lady who came here and briefed you all about 2 months ago, and we're prepared to work with them and do whatever's necessary to get it going if we fit the criteria. Do we?
At present, we don't seem to fit the criteria, but I think that's one of the matters that the Citizens Committee up there in Old Town is attempting to address. They're looking, if you will, at a grassroots level to try and find out what are the components that we have that meet the rules that have been set by the state for arts and entertainment district designation. So I mean, we continue to provide such support as we can, but the state's pretty clear. They're not looking for an application from the government. They're looking for an application from a private group that works in partnership with the local government. We did not have the necessary fundamental conditions in Bowie when the idea of Arts and Entertainment District was first brought forward 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. Certainly things in Old Town Bowie have changed, and I'm optimistic that this Citizens Committee may find greater interest on the part of the property owners, as well as identify an arts community that was not present by survey and census when we did this last time.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So we're there. I'm not certain there's a specific role, but we're certainly not opposed to being there for any citizens group that comes in and asks for help.
Yeah, I would think so, and I think there's level of expertise in knowing what the business environment is there. Clearly, it would be, an arts district would have an economic impact, and I think that would be an enhanced development for that area. So I think to whatever we can do to help such groups as that advance that cause, that would be good to put in as an objective for that.
We stand ready to work with Mr. Wolfley in any capacity we can.
Thank you.
Any other, Dr. Trout?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Wolfley had mentioned before that since he sits so close to Councilman Esteve, they may be sharing notes. You sharing my notes over here. Let me start off by saying I'll get back to you, but I want to highlight you got some good stuff there. I just want to let you know, and I've got some information. First of all, I had mentioned this early on before. I went to a presentation at the Prince George's County Municipal Association about a month ago, and the folks from the Arts District were there. And I've already had conversations with the city manager, and I've also had conversations with a couple of people in that particular office, and they work for the county, okay? And it is my goal to have them come in and make the presentation to us after the budget. That's the only reason why I hadn't asked them to come in now. And the information that I got from them really enforces your last sentence about being an improvement to economic development when you have an arts district, the economic development in the city or in your municipality. So that's something that I think we really need to work with. But if you go back to page 70 and look at the description and read from the first word, the mission, until the last 2 words, technical assistance, that means opportunity zones to me. And then if you go ahead and you look over it with regard to, I think it was the professional services with the Bowie incubator, that's another area when you look and read this and you read in between the lines, opportunity zones keep coming out at you again. And I've had a brief conversation Saturday with the city manager to see if we in fact can do an opportunity zone. And this information, the opportunity zones was created by the tax law of December of 2017. But we only have until December 31st of 2019 to take advantage of it. So one of the things I want to know, can we add this as an objective, which is what you were talking about, make an objective 4 to look at opportunity zones and also look at arts district?
Yes, we can do that, sir.
Because both of them impact economic development.
We're not sure that we qualify and meet the criteria for an opportunity zone. There is a specific percentage of poverty rate that has to exist.
Right.
And I think this community is in much better shape in that respect.
Right.
And we may not meet the requirement in that, and we're researching that right now. But we'll certainly we'll tentatively put it down as to be on the objective, but before the budget closes, I will let you know specifically with regard to the opportunity zone as to whether we even fit the criteria to apply. And certainly we'll add the arts and entertainment district effort.
That was my same reservation, and looking at it, I was looking at it from all 4 districts. I ruled out 3, 4, 3, and 2 automatically.
Yeah.
The only district that I was looking at that had a possibility of potential for that would be District 1.
Well, I think when the applications, they look at the city as a whole.
Right.
And even, I think the criteria is like 20% of the population added below the poverty rate. We don't come anywhere close to that, which is the problem that we have in any district.
Right.
But let me verify that before I tell you.
But I do feel very comfortable about the information that I've got from Rhonda Dallas and also Conrad Hurley and some of the other folks that I've talked to. And I attended a program last week with FSC First, who is, I guess that when you talk about this revolving loan on page 73, that would be them. Is that correct?
Is that one of the loans?
That's correct. Apparently, when I push the button, there rings a bell and I win a prize. The FSC First, Financial Services Corporation, Prince George's County, manages the revolving loan fund that we have created. Right. They additionally are a small business administration lender. Right. They also package money provided by banks that are active in Prince George's County. So they are our go-to for business loans. On the matter of opportunity zones, you're aspiring to something you shouldn't aspire to. An opportunity zone is awarded to an area where census tracts have abject poverty. We don't have abject poverty, nor am I certain do you want us to seek that to get this. Further complication on the opportunity zone exists in that all that are allowed in Maryland have been designated. Of the 580 some odd census tracts that there are in Maryland that could be designated as opportunity zones, only 25% under the federal law of those 500, of however many zones you've got potential, only 25% can be designated as opportunity zones. And the state has already designated those. There are 149 of those within the state. And again, we did not compete for it because we don't have that poverty. Now, you'll recall when Mr. Buggs is here speaking about the block grants and his efforts, we do have, within our census tracts, we have some block groups that do have poorer people. And he has built programs that we fund that through your approval and the block grant process to address the conditions there. But the opportunity zone, the hub zone, the rise zone, the enterprise zone, those are all things that exist in Maryland. None of those are something that's going to happen in Bowie because we don't have the problem they are intended to solve.
That's good information, and that's all I really wanted to know, if in fact we were qualified, because we have not had this discussion with staff, and I'm going to different organizations who are bringing forth information about opportunity zones and bringing information about, looking at other avenues where it could impact or increase your economic development for a particular municipality. So I just wanted to get clarification on it because, as I said, we've not had that discussion. And I do feel more comfortable about the arts district because I've got a little bit more knowledge and more information on the Arts District. So that's the reason why I brought it forth, to find out, since I knew you guys would know something about it. We just wanted to get your feedback on it. Thank you.
Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to echo very quickly and be very short with it, of the sentiments of both Councilmember Wolfrey and Trout, to where maybe seeing an adjective added to ED, economic development, to where they would work with the understanding to support an arts district within Districts 1 of Bowie, Old Bowie. And I'm very familiar with I'm totally familiar with the opportunity zones, and you are correct, totally correct, John Henry King, to where the city of Bowie would not be classified as an opportunity zone. We do not have that level of poverty here. The cities in Prince George's County are District Heights, Capitol Heights, and then outside, you know, almost the entire city of Baltimore, but they're not any, actually, and even the District of Columbia. But very few in the state as in comparison to other. In fact, one of my clients, the city of Gary, Indiana, the entire city itself has been designated as an opportunity zone. And so I am really familiar with the opportunity zones and how they get funding into those areas for projects such as for economic development and so forth. But it would be great if we could get this arts district going and more momentum, some momentum going, and I think it will take a partnership between the city and the group that had come forward to discuss the opportunity, the arts district, and moving there and then providing them with certain resources. And I do also know that there are a number of firms that want to invest in Bowie, so that are waiting for such an arts district to be created. I mentioned earlier to Councilmember Marcos that Andy Salahi, who owns the Busboys and Poet there in Washington, D.C., which is an arts-themed restaurant, he really wants to come into Old Bowie and build. So I don't know what's available there, but I think that would be a great anchor to start and then expand from there. But I just wanted to say I echoed their ideas and support that greatly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Economic development? Emergency management, 74, 75, and 76.
Emergency Management Office plans, organizes, and directs the emergency management programs for the city of Bowie and coordinates the planning, organization, and execution of local emergency management activities. This office represents the community on all emergency management matters and coordinates activities with other local, state, federal, and nonprofit organizations. It oversees the development of maintenance and annual reviews of equipment, of the city's emergency operations plan, EOP, and other emergency preparedness plans as required. Also, if you look further down in this narrative, you'll see that the Emergency Management Office provides a variety of emergency preparedness and emergency response training opportunities for staff and various community groups, including classes on emergency preparedness, CPR, infectious control, and instant command. This is an organization that has 1.4 persons presently, and we propose as a change to make this add a 0.6 FTE and upgrade the emergency management specialist to a full-time position. And the purpose, of course, is to enhance our readiness, and today, and of course, you can't be too prepared, but with two professional members on our staff, it's my opinion that we'd be in better shape. The objectives for 19 were completed, and the workload and performance indicators are rather unchanged compared to 2019. Our objectives for 2020 are to enhance employee preparedness and public safety committees and green team knowledge by conducting quarterly training programs to include topics such as CPR, infectious disease control, opioid overdoses, emergency preparedness, and incident command. A continuous program, by the way. Evaluate the location of the automatic external defibrillators, otherwise called AEDs, to determine if they are needed, they need to be expanded to additional city facilities, including city parks. And we want to start replacing the AEDs that have reached their life expectancy that are posted now. We want to train the staff on emergency action plan for emergencies that may occur within the city facilities, and begin quarterly training on emergency operations center operations and management. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have half of a person added, and we also, this is a major personnel cost, and benefits are the highest cost at $137,900 and $504,400. Other charges, $167,000, which includes a contribution to the City of Bowie Volunteer Fire Department, and of course we're also going to transfer $41,800 to the equipment acquisition and replacement fund for the future replacement of fire apparatus associated with the Volunteer Fire Department. I like to say that, over the last year, as a former operations officer in my Army days, I have been impressed by our readiness and the operations of our EOC during the significant weather events that we've had, storms, and then of course the snowstorms that we had that brought the city to a halt back during the winter, and our readiness and the fact that everybody who was a part of the EOC operation is trained and prepared and knows their functions, and that's because of the training that we conducted. And we have a large number of our employees are trained in CPR, and that could come in handy if somebody has an event. Any questions regarding emergency management?
Question on emergency management. Mr. Wolfley?
Quick question on the third paragraph. It speaks to this office also coordinates with police department on active shooter preparedness and response. I never thought I'd have to worry about such things, but with recent events, are we doing anything with churches, synagogues, other places of worship in reaching out to these communities to offer some sort of opportunity for discussion, planning, and that sort of thing?
Yes, sir. Our wonderful police department has a great program that they are reaching out not only to the staff, but also out into the community, and I'm sure Chief Neske can speak further to that. But there is a program that is available, and they go out into the community to teach that program to communities and different organizations.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other question on emergency, Dr. Trout?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, let's start off with thank you for the upgrade to an emergency management specialist. That was one of the recommendations from the Public Safety Committee. Also, for the objectives for 2020, we had discussed this before. Want to make sure that we do not overlook this. Would like to have a tabletop exercise done for the fiscal year 2020.
Yes, sir. We are definitely going to have many different exercises throughout the year. We're going to have workshops, seminars, tabletops, and by the end of the year, I want to have a functional exercise to actually test the preparedness and to test our plan for the Emergency Operations Center. So we'll put together a scenario at the end of the year and actually have a functional exercise, which is one step higher than a tabletop.
Can we put that down as an objective?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, you looking at my notes also.
Okay.
Because one of the things, this is a suggestion, once the EOC has been completed, can we have an open house so at least the council can go by and view the revamped or newly revised EOC?
Yeah, sure.
So the council can get.
We could do that.
Yeah, 'cause council-
Similar to the, when Laurel, the city of Laurel opened their
That's-
new emergency operations center.
That's exactly
They invited some
Right.
elected officials and surrounding jurisdictions to take a
Right.
look. I hesitate to open that up at an open house to the general public for security,
No, I
for
said
security
council.
reasons.
Council.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. No, the council. And, like any of the city staff that wants to go, I
Sure.
would think that would be okay. But no, I wasn't talking about the outsiders, just the city
Okay.
council. Because I want the city council to be familiar with what the EOC does and some of the things that
Well,
happen.
yes, and I'll be talking to Ms. Hernandez, the city clerk. She's going to be putting together a orientation for the new council after November. I want part of that to be a segment of that in emergency management. There's also some online training that elected officials can take to be certified in NIMS. So we're going to highly recommend that the new council takes those types of classes so they can become very familiar with emergency operations and their role during an emergency or disaster.
I like to see that happen. That's something we tried in the past. I hope you have better success than what we had in the past.
We'll see.
We'll see. You're right. Also, with regard to the Public Safety Committee, the Public Safety Committee recommends that the City Council should consider authorizing the city manager to hire a public safety consultant to evaluate the overall safety needs of the city, especially over the next 5 to 10 years. I'm not sure that we need to have a full-time person for that, because when you have a full-time person, then you also have to pay the salary, and then you also have to pay fringe benefits. Can't we go to the University of Maryland and see if they have some services that will provide the same results, or achieve the same goals that's in this document that the Public Safety Committee is asking for, plus you don't incur any fringe benefits. And I know the University of Maryland has a huge gamut of things and activities with regard to emergency management.
Are you talking about consulting to determine our security needs?
Looking at the public safety to evaluate the overall safety needs over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, actually, 2 years ago, there was a study done on the city's security. That was done in coordination with MEMA,
Right.
and that report was put out a few years ago, and we are actually using that report in our security work group within the city to develop our security needs in terms of CCTV, our visitor management systems, our card readers, and the such. So we are using those recommendations in that report as we speak.
Okay.
We also have a committee, a security committee related to the staff that's working on a plan for the security of the city facilities. I've given the person in charge till the 1st of July to come up with the draft, and we're gonna take it from there and refine it to include all facilities, to include CCTV and other methods. One example in particular, I was in New York, suburbs of New York. I went to the US Open facility to watch my niece play. She's 9, right? She's nice neighborhood. But in order to get in, I had to show, and it was a simple thing, pull out my ID and let them swipe my ID. And Maryland, my driver's license didn't
Right.
work, almost didn't make it in. However, my military ID was new. So I took it out and I swiped it. And once it swiped it, read the barcode, I got nice little stick-on name tag. They knew who I was. I put it on my shirt, and I went in the facility and I watched them. It's my intent to work toward that objective or something like that for the front desk.
Right.
For the entrance of this building. I'm not saying
Right.
people have to go through metal detectors and all that, but like Councilman Wolf said, maybe they ought to, considering what's going on these days. However, but we simply have to know who's coming in this building.
Right.
And other critical buildings. Otherwise, we haven't done our fiduciary job. We haven't done what we're supposed to do. We haven't secured the facility. We haven't secured our employees. So I want to get to that, and so give us 6 months to get our act together here, and I can come back and tell you, well, we need to spend money on somebody else, because we got a lot of brains here we can use. So
I like that idea, because a lot of the hospitals use that. Matter of fact,
Exactly.
Doctors Community Hospital,
Right.
they use that exactly, and when you print out, it's a copy, a picture of you, and everything like that.
And one could argue that if somebody doesn't have an ID, maybe they don't need to come to the building. But I used to be in the Army, so I'm a little forward. But when you look at security, so if somebody doesn't have some form of identification, I mean, there are barcodes on passports these days.
Right.
So, and we will be able to read the barcode some fashion, so that people want to come in and go to what offices, look at the art, or come here to listen to you all, and us through our exchange, we just know who it is. And
Right.
it's a simple thing. It took 30 seconds
Right.
for me to go through there. Of course, they had my life on a barcode after that, but they still knew who I was.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And just to add a quick note on that, we already have the technology in our communities, so our schools already implement those systems. So when you go to in our high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, you go through the same process. You show an ID, they print, they know exactly who you are.
Any other questions?
Sorry, real quickly to build on that conversation. Two quick things. I know that the city's IT committee has had some of these conversations in the past about kind of how to enhance security. There's a lot of expertise in that group, and they have had some of these discussions with staff in the past. There might be worth just reaching out and getting their input on some of this. The second thing I know that kind of as a city, as far as general security at our municipal buildings, on the scale of being kind of a hippie commune on one end or Fort Knox on the other, as far as overall security, we tend to not lean towards the Fort Knox direction. And I guess just my only thought on this is, you know, I kind of prefer that as a city we be relatively accessible and not feel too much like a fortress. I know as far as kind of balancing keeping our employees safe and also feeling kind of open, you know, there are certain ways that you can make, you know, entrance into the building itself relatively easy, but then access to individual offices and individual, you know, parts of the building much harder. And I think that direction would be a little bit better to the extent that we kind of pursue that if we're concerned about enhancing safety for employees. It's just a thought.
Yeah. Police Department on page 77.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Moriarty. Welcome, Chief.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the chairman of the Public Safety Committee wanted us to read this letter that they presented and have it read for the record. And so Mr. Matthews is going to do that right now.
The Bowie Public Safety Committee would like to provide comments on the proposed 2020 budget for the city's Bowie Police Department, the Emergency Management Office, and grants to the Bowie Volunteer Fire Department Rescue Squad. The Bowie Public Safety Committee has a long-standing interest in support of each of the departments and organizations. Bowie Fire Department. The Bowie Public Safety Committee has consistently worked with the Bowie Police Department since its establishment. They have witnessed from the referendum granting the council the authority to establish the Bowie Police Department to its well-functioning operations that includes not only patrol officers, but also an investigation unit and a call dispatch center. The Bowie Public Safety Committee appreciates the well-planned and implemented growth in the police department. The Bowie Public Safety Committee continues to evaluate this growth. the current needs of the city and the future needs of the city. We believe that as the city's population grows, especially with the new developments that have been authorized and planned through the areas recent annexed into the city, the Bowie Police Department needs to continue to expand its services to our citizens to maintain the level of safety we have achieved. Additionally, during the next several years, it's anticipated that a number of senior command staff and patrol officers will be eligible for retirement. Accordingly, we believe that the Bowie Police Department, the city manager office, and the city council should work cooperatively to develop a 5-year succession expansion plan, which clearly delineates, 1, the future development of the Bowie Police Department, 2, how retirements will be planned for and subsequent replacement hires, and 3, identification of additional staffing necessary to maintain an acceptable level of safety within our city. We believe that all of the parties involved would be committed to this plan, including the budgetary funding necessary to achieve those goals. The members of the Bowie Public Safety Committee stand ready to assist these efforts and as directed by the City Council. Emergency management. The Bowie Public Safety Committee members have a strong relationship with the current emergency manager. We have worked for several years with the EM to develop a strong and viable emergency operations plan. We support its continued development and updates. A viable emergency operation plan is critical to address the vital issues for our city and to ensure continued operations and services to our residents in the event of emergency, either natural, such as snow, wind, floods, or man-made disasters. A strong base plan and related annexes to the emergency operations plan is an absolute necessity. In addition to the development of the emergency operations plan and its annexes, the emergency management operation has a number of other significant responsibilities. These include, 1, the development of the National Incident Command System with the city offices, 2, training of staff, 3, coordinating with the Bowie Police Department in development and conduct of the exercises, 4, ensuring that the City of Bowie facilities have updated facilities emergency response plans, 5, all facilities have at least 1 yearly fire safety inspection, 6, identification of location and maintenance of automatic external defibrillators, 7, coordinating with city committees, and 8, meeting homeowners associations. The Bowie Public Safety Committee thanks and fully supports the City Council, the City Manager, for adding a part-time position within the emergency operations to work to achieve the vital goals and responsibilities of the office successfully. We fully support an upgrade of the current part-time emergency management specialist position to a full-time staff position as proposed in the 2020 budget. Bowie Volunteer Fire Department Rescue Squad. Lastly, but just as critical, the Bowie Public Safety Committee has a strong relationship with the Bowie Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad. They routinely participate in our monthly meetings, provide updates to call volumes, unique incidents, CPR, training activities, recruiting, retention efforts, and equipment facility needs. We also participate in various fire department events, such as the annual Fire Prevention Day. Our committee strongly supported the Bowie Volunteer Fire Department's funding request to make structural improvements to Station 39. These improvements were and are an absolute necessity to ensure the safety of the volunteers and paid staff, and to help recruit new members, especially live-in members. We also continue to believe that support funds of $167,000 proposed in the budget from the city to the Bowie Volunteer Fire Department to assist in CPR for Bowie programs, fire prevention, fund drive, recruitment and retention of members, vehicle upkeep and purchase, and other necessary equipment and supplies is a necessity. In addition, we believe that the proposed $41,500 equipment acquisition replacement fund is necessary to ensure that the Bowie Volunteer Fire Department has available to purchase the necessary equipment to maintain fire and emergency operations for the safety of our citizens. We support the continued funding contained in the 2020 fiscal year budget. And finally, the Bowie Public Safety Committee recommends that City Council should consider authorizing the city manager to hire a public safety consultant to evaluate the overall safety needs of the city, especially over the next 5 to 10 years. Such an evaluation takes into account not only the needs of the Bowie Police Department, energy management operation, and fire and MES within the city, but also the needs of other city services such as street lighting, housing inspection, animal control, park services that will continue to be impacted by the growth within our city, thus enabling them to maintain and expand our safety services. The Bowie Public Safety Committee stands ready to work and meet the mandates of our charter with the various city departments and committees and the Bowie Volunteer Fire Department to ensure that our city maintains safe and that future safety needs are met. Sincerely, Dell Billings.
Well, we met our obligation there, sir. The Bowie Police Department. The police department protects the lives and property of our citizens and businesses while focusing on proactive community engagement, trust building, and responsiveness. Duties include patrol, responding to calls for service, identifying and apprehending suspected criminals, traffic safety enforcement, along with community service and events. The police department does a lot of great things, and we're a suburban utopia surrounded sometimes by people who want to prey on us. And the police department keeps us safe in that respect. The department continues to expand its responsibilities as dictated by the community needs. The call center continues to evolve and improve services to the residents and improve interoperability between city departments. The department continues to move toward commission and accreditation of the law enforcement agencies, CALEA accreditation. The department currently has a traffic unit, investigative unit, direct response unit, and a community services unit, which includes the school resource officer. The department will continue to work in partnership with Prince George's County Police Department. This partnerships include sharing training opportunities, joint initiatives, and information sharing. Prince George's County Police Department continues to provide follow-up investigative services to the city of Bowie for all major crimes, including but not limited to commercial robbery, rape, murder, as well as some technical evidence in in areas of drug analysis, fingerprint identification, special operations such as helicopter unit, hostage barricades, officers, and canine training. As far as 19 is concerned, you know, the objective was to get 2 sworn officers in by June 30th, 2019, and get the number up to a sworn 67. In the process of targeting the spring academy right now, and we have 4 trainees in the academy presently. Unfortunately, we had 5, we lost 1. And we continue to work on this effort. It's really tough to recruit in general, even tougher to recruit police officers because of the high standards associated with the criteria to become a police officer. Complete the final phase of the call center connecting Public Works and the community services. That is not inaccurate. It's 98% complete. There's still one small thing left to be done, but we'll do it by June. Be there, hiring a police cadet. Before that's been put on hold, we're going to get this. We want to get our security plan identified and worked out, so that we can specifically identify what that police cadet would do while they were at the front desk, and to see if it's still necessary. As you see here, looking at the statistic, the workload and performance indicators, you'll see that a particular difference in the BPD handles calls for service. It goes from 22,564 to 39,718. It's directly related to the fact that we are conducting our own dispatch now and maintaining even better data than was before. On page 78, I'll go through the objectives for 2020. To create 24-hour dispatcher supervision by eliminating the vacant assistant communications supervisor and transitioning 4 of its existing communications specialist 2 positions into communications specialist 3 positions by June 30. It should be noted that in the last 2 years since the city police department began to do its own dispatching, that there was a significant personnel change, because in 16, when we had a call center, people were required to be a call taker 1. But once we became a dispatch, now the emergency call standards came in, and the standards for the job increased significantly. All those people who were required to be trained and tested, and some people went on other things, but we've changed the quality and standards of the call dispatcher's operation. Number 2 there, upgrade our crime scene investigation and processing abilities by converting the vacant police personnel specialist into a civilian evidence technician by June 30, 2020. Complete the upfitting and supplying of the evidence processing area by June the 30th, which is the physical structure of a laboratory, and convert the administrative assistant position to public information and intelligence specialist by January 20th. That's going to be done as soon as soon after July 1st. There are no significant budget changes in this department's budget. A total of 87.5 FTEs exist. Salaries and benefits are one of the biggest expenses. Insurance is another expense. Repair and maintenance of the vehicles is critical and another expense. Material supplies are for a full-service police, nearly full-service police department. Computers, training, telephones, office furniture, and at 246,300. Operating supplies, gasoline, motor oil, automotive, supporting a motor pool full of police cars and police equipment. Weapons and ammunition training is relevant to the police department. And those are, my quick arithmetic indicated the budget's around $10,977,500. So any questions I'm sure you have on this budget?
Mr. Stev?
Yes, real quick. Thanks so much for coming out tonight, Chief, Deputy Chief, Detective, I think Captain, Lieutenant, I can't tell at this distance. Thank you for being here. Real quick, we've been talking a lot about electric vehicles. I know that the city of Hyattsville has recently bought, I believe they're Chevy Volts or something along those lines. They're very proud of those. They're using them for their police department. I know that you guys have a lot of specific technical requirements you need for your vehicles, but evidently there are some out there that are electric, and I was just curious if you guys would be open to taking a look into those as something that we might, adopt down the road.
We have looked at them, sir. They just put one out that is pursuit rated.
Okay.
But we don't want to be the first in the water with it.
I think that's reasonable.
So we will sit back and see what kind of experiences other departments have.
See how
on it.
Hyattsville does, and then see if it's
And actually, they don't even have, theirs aren't pursuit rated. They have,
Oh, theirs aren't?
They have the little Tykes kind of car.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember what the guy's name was, but he kind of wedged himself in there. And it's great for what it's doing, but it's not serving much of a patrol function.
Fair enough.
But it is a nice addition to what they need, and we would not be adverse to looking into electrical vehicles as long as they suit the needs and the safety requirements.
And that definitely comes first, absolutely. So thank you for that. Second thing, we've talked a little bit about this in the past with working with the Parks Police Department. I don't know if it's something that requires an MOU or what kind of conversation, but just seeing if we can sort out jurisdictional understanding with them. I do occasionally get comments from residents that they seem to have trouble when they call about parks and neighborhoods that are managed by Maryland National Capital Park and Planning, that sometimes they feel a little bit bounced around between departments trying to get police assistance, whether it's us or Parks Police. So any conversations you can have with them to kind of sort out those jurisdictional challenges would be really, really helpful.
I did have a conversation with Chief Johnson about 2 months ago. We just need to follow up.
Okay.
And I think I know exactly the situation you're talking about.
Probably heard about it quite a lot as well.
It had the dual edge sort of being outside the city and on park property. So
Correct.
it was a little tough to get a response at first.
I appreciate that. Another thing, I know there have been some efforts underway, some conversations about encouraging members of the police department to live in the city of Bowie in our jurisdiction. And I just wanted to, encourage any of those conversations in that direction, whatever incentive programs or anything like that might be useful in encouraging cops to live locally. I've seen some numbers that can potentially save us quite a lot of money in commuting costs and gas and other things, and also just enhancing the number of police who live here and are driving around by virtue of living here has a lot of added benefits as well. So just general encouraging words in that direction.
Yes, sir.
And then finally, for publishing police reports and whatnot, I know that we used to, with varying frequency, get special reports emailed to us at the council. I know online that there are police reports going back. I don't know if I saw any for 2018 published online. Or if those are there. Last time I checked the city website. But I just was curious about how we're publishing reports, where we're publishing them, what frequency do we think is good to put out there?
We actually, what you're referring to is we should do the unusual report.
Oh, okay.
As we became a little more present on social media and on the website, we now have what's called the dispatch. Mm-hmm. And the dispatch comes out every Wednesday, and it gives a highlight of incidents for the week prior.
Okay.
So we are putting weekly. Initially, stats were out monthly. We went to bi-weekly, now we're weekly.
Okay.
One of the things that we're still trying to put together is how to best highlight significant incidents. If it's a matter of public safety, we of course put the alerts out. Those go out as needed through all of our social media and website platforms. We're looking at trying to think about how best to put out things of note, and we have done a good drug arrest we had maybe 2-3 weeks ago goes out. Mr. Wright does a really good job of making sure that everything gets out on our Twitter, Nextdoor, Facebook, the website. So we do try to push as much content out as we can. One of the things that we're waiting for a component of the dispatch system to come online. I want to say it's called Command Central, but don't write that down because I might be wrong. But once that is in play, residents will be able to connect geographically to things that are happening in their specific area. It'll be map-based. So that's going to be a huge improvement. We're looking at some GIS stuff as well, but we're looking to see where this command central is going to go, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel if there's going to be a component that's going to take the bulk of that off our hands.
Gotcha. Perfect. And then just beyond that, a big thank you to your whole department. To you, Deputy Chief, the command staff, all of your officers. We get a lot of positive feedback about our public safety services here, and that continues to be something that we're very proud of, and we're very happy to continue to support, and we appreciate the tremendous work you all do.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Trout, and then Mr. Wolford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief, and Deputy Chief, and all of the members of the police department that are here. Just wanted to go over a couple of things from the Public Safety Committee's report, well, letter. Where are we with regard to, or what is your opinion of the idea of developing a 5-year succession expansion plan? And the objective of it is to delineate the future development of the Bowie Police Department, how retirements will be planned for and subsequent replacement and hiring, and identification of additional staffing necessary to maintain acceptable level of safety within the city. And with that, my part B is, what would be the cost of doing all that?
To Part A, that's something that we try to do on almost daily basis, is forecast what we're going to need. Part of your succession planning should be almost natural. That's providing your command staff with opportunities to learn and grow and do your job when you're either done with it or someone tells you you're done with it. And then it should trickle down the line, giving opportunities for your sergeants or corporals, everyone to do as much professional advancement as they can. One of the things that if you look deep into the books, you'll see that our department is very vigorous in taking advantage of the tuition reimbursement. So we do have a lot of self-motivated people as well that are furthering their education and are in various programs to prepare themselves for the next step. The benefit of having an outside set of eyes on things, it's always good. Sometimes you're too close and you miss things. The cost, I have no idea. I'd have to even start to look at that, because it would depend upon the scope of what they're actually looking at and the amount of detail that we're looking for. Is the juice worth the squeeze? It would really depend on the cost and the scope of things. But we are looking at, we've had many of discussion in our staff meetings about what the future is going to look like. We look at development, we look at where we should be staffing-wise, but we also look at where we're going to be economically and financially. I was in a conversation with a resident last week, and they were asking about staffing and do we have enough people, and that's always a tricky question, because I can tell you what we think we should have, but at the end of the day, we give suggestions or we talk, and then we make the best that we can with the resources that are available. I'm sure every police chief in the world would sit there and say, I'd love to have more people. But the fact is that as development grows, we're going to have to try to keep pace, but you can only do what you're financially able to do. Right.
Now, based upon the staffing, what are we using as a percentage for staffing? Is it like 1.2 or 1.4
It's
officers?
1.5 per 1,000 under DOJ.
Per 1,000, okay.
Which would put us in the 80s or 90s.
Right, right.
But again, that's not my,
right.
That's not my financial ballywick, so to speak.
Right, right. And just for the edification of the audience, as far as the police department is concerned, we are able to house 100 police officers in the police department?
When we designed the building, we outfitted it and looked at it for about 100 people.
Okay.
Just looking down the road, because once you give up space, you can't get it back.
Right. Okay.
So that's the reason we have the evidence lab already built in and just not furnished yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Wolfley.
Thank you, and appreciate all of your efforts, the entire team. There's a lot of good work that you guys do and a lot of community outreach that is greatly appreciated. So I thank you all for your efforts. Your work is very much appreciated and considered one of the prime benefits and services of being a city resident. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Quick question on the subject we were talking about earlier. Can you talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on outreach to churches, synagogues, religious communities, that sort of thing, what you're doing and what, if anything, we should do differently?
I don't know if we should do it differently. We've been reaching out to all the churches. I just had a conversation with the good rabbi this afternoon and attended a meeting probably about 2 months ago with his security team. The Sergeant Wall and MPO Welsh have been doing an outstanding job going to different businesses, to different churches, community groups and organizations, and presenting the CRAZE training, which is active shooter training. It's the recently a couple years ago, modified active shooter training. They do an outstanding job engaging the residents and the people that they train in real life scenarios. Without taking it too far, they make it feel like they're engaged and what would they do if something was actually happening. I've received nothing but praise from their efforts. Again, when you look at, we talked about staffing, there are two people in my training folks who are doing that, as well as training in service and firearms and everything else. So we definitely have the message out there. We do our best to accommodate everybody that we can. But again, you can only stretch folks so far sometimes. But we do a lot of those trainings already, and we continually reach out and try to increase our presence.
Excellent, thank you. One other question is a follow-up to some conversations we've had in the past. Where do we stand on video camera incentive program, and how's that working?
There is a $50,000 line item under program supplements for the camera rebate. We are working with Ring. I'm sorry, excuse me. We are setting in talks with Ring to set up the program where they would receive, they would donate $100 towards the rebate, and we would donate $100 towards the rebate.
Excellent.
We are currently hammering out the MOU to get on their network and participate in the program. So if everything goes through, we should anticipate having that next fiscal.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Sure. Dr. St. Carter?
Yes. I want to thank you all for the tremendously important work that you do. As a professor of criminal justice and certified instructor with the Maryland State Correction and Training Commission, I understand the challenges that you faced. So I think that something that you're doing it right. I know that nationally, and not just in our region, law enforcement are faced with challenges with recruitment. And so to see that we're able to grow our department says a lot to the work that's here and to the reputation of our department. So my first question would be recruitment with regards to diversity. So what does our department look like with regards to diversity and specifically recruitment efforts with diversity?
We are almost to the letter matching our population. In fact, we were highlighted in a Department of Justice white paper on best practices. We actually went up to Department of Justice and sat at the panel when they presented it. I would love to say that we had an outstanding, brilliant plan to get there, but we also had a distinct advantage where we were not hiring, we were hiring recently. So we did not have generations and generations of, you know, for lack of white males that traditionally were in policing before. We could start from scratch, and we built our department in a diverse manner from day one with that thought in mind. So it all kind of came naturally from there. Okay. And we do recruit on universities. We've been out to Bowie State. We go through military transitioning points where folks are getting ready to get out of the military or are looking for someplace to land. We do a big social media presence. One of the things that we start to do that was a little different was our PT test, our physical agility test. We don't make you put out an application first. Sometimes we just do an open announcement. And if you want to come take the physical agility to see if you can do it, great. And while you're there, you talk to the officers and see what we're about. And you know, sometimes people say, yeah, okay, I like what I'm seeing. Some of the things that we've talked to applicants in the interview process, or in the interview, was like, I really liked what I saw at the physical agility, talking to your officers and see the way they carry themselves, what they're about, how they're, you know, about the community, and it made me want to apply. So we kind of have to think differently to get the pool wider, because there are some challenges. Not everybody makes it through the process. So we need to cast a wider net and get as much of, continue to keep our diverse nature.
Okay. I'd love to see the white paper, by the way.
Sure.
As a follow-up to what you just mentioned, is the police academy, is it in-house or is it sent to Prince George's County?
We go through Prince George's County. It's been an outstanding experience. It's free training. All we have to do is provide ammo and an occasional instructor to help with firearms or EVOC, or BST, or basic survival tactics. But it creates good relationships outside the department. Prince George's County is our main partner, and you go through the academy together, and as people progress through ranks, we always like to be able to say, hey, I know someone in evidence, I know someone in homicide. It's a great way to build it naturally.
Okay.
That's quite a perk. That's quite a gift from the county to us. It could be as much as $40,000 to $50,000 to send somebody through the police academy, and they do it because we're good neighbors. It's a good thing.
Okay. With our EOC that's in development, are there also talks for this to be a dual center, perhaps to serve as a command center as well for the police department?
The current plan is it's going into our existing training room. So it'll be kind of what you call a semi-hot EOC. Okay. So you won't have to move equipment or load anything up. We'll just come in and start flipping switches. So it is in partnership with Lee and Emergency Management.
All right. And my last comment, so I see that the data is listed online for crime reports. So the UCR makes it readily available, but you guys are doing this. Just a minor thing, the website says bi-weekly, and then the description it says monthly, but I hear that you're doing it weekly. So just a minor update on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Trout, any last question?
Thank you. This is a question to you, Mr. Mayor. About last year, we had a host of we had a host of religious leaders that we discussed about their problems, et cetera, so forth and so on. Based upon what I've heard from Councilman DeFoor, I think it might be advantageous to bring those religious leaders back in and have a religious roundtable to address some of the things that Councilman Wolfley has articulated earlier to us. I think that'd be something that we need to really look at again.
Yeah, certainly. I used to get with them once or twice a year. There's no problem with doing that. You guys are always invited. Any other questions with PD? All right, let's go to Finance Department on 85. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you coming in and staying with us.
Thank you, Chief. Will.
Thank you for everything you do for us.
By the way, Mr. Mayor, I would say one thing about from a revenue financial note. As I quick arithmetic, the police department is about almost $11 million of our budget. 18% of our budget is police, and we did not increase the revenue at all to build this police department. And that is part of the reason why we have this shortfall we spoke of, but just as a budgetary note. All right, so the Finance Department functions to provide financial information needed for policy and administrative decisions. The financial information is used to assess the existing financial position of the city as a whole, or particular fund, program, or department, or to forecast the financial position over a given period of time, monitor and control the flow of revenues and expenditures so as to maintain accountability of funds and to operate the city within the legal and budgetary constraints. The objectives were to maintain the city's certificate of achievement for financial reporting and distinguished budget presentation. That we completed that. We received that particular designation. And B was to conduct the annual budget process, and we're completing that. And we're involved in that, and of course, to bring forth the mid-year report, which came to you all in February of this year. Our workload and performance indicators are the same or similar to last year, no significant changes. Our objectives for 2020 is to maintain the city's certificate of achievement of financial reporting and distinguished budget presentation award. Also, we didn't include the budget presentation. That's the part of their operational mission. The one significant change that you'll see here is that we've added one FTE. 0.1 of that person will go to the water system. 9/10 will go to the general fund for a grade 111 with a cost of $60,157. Understanding that it's been more than 10 years since there have been any personnel increases into the Finance Department, and their mission continues to grow, and it's an exceptional mission in that they have the general fund to account for, plus they're the accountants and bookkeepers and everything for the water system, which, albeit small, has all the accounting requirements of a large system. So that's there. So that would bring them up to 10.3 employees. And of course, the $798,200 for salary and wages, $231,100 are the wages and benefits. Contractual services are the audit fees and Government Finance Association fees and such. Professional services also include armored car services, bank fees, and temporaries and actuaries. Travel and training and other components are essential but not major, and that concludes my discussion about finance, and I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Question on finance. All right. Non-departmental, page 149, 151.
Going through that one. Mr. Matthews will take us through that.
Mayor and council, the non-departmental, similar to what we discussed in the earlier budget meetings with water and sewer, this department basically handles expenditures not directly identified in any of the particular departments in the general fund. What we have here is the debt service for City Hall, the potential new debt service for the Bowie Ice Arena, and a series of contractual services are insurance for the general fund itself, professional services dealing with our consulting, our employee benefits, and other consulting activities. Other charges related to educational reimbursements, incentive awards, are reserved for contingencies, and that's for any unforeseen occurrences that come across within the budget year that may affect any department within the general fund. The reserve for personal adjustments during the year. Also, the transfers to the capital project fund, as well as the equipment acquisition and replacement fund.
One comment about that equipment acquisition and replacement fund. Normally that fund is as much as $1 million. However, we did not do that this year because we wanted to keep the budget at or below 59 million in that vicinity. And we'll be looking to put money in that account next year so we can we won't lose control of our maintenance of our equipment.
In addition, on page 151 is a debt service requirement. The first one is the public improvement bonds of 2009, and that was basically the debt service for the new city hall. As you recall, in 2015, we refunded those bonds. So the next debt service is the remainder portion of the 30-year bonds that we issued in 2019. And any questions, I'll be free to answer.
Any questions on non-departmental debt service? Thank you. Hey, thank you guys for the evening, and finance, thank you for what you guys do. Appreciate everything you pass on to your staff, all those folks that came in and helped us out tonight, we much appreciate it. Mr. Gardner, you want to move us to adjourn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Dr. Trout. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good night.